Hey, good afternoon, I guess. Welcome to the Stochastic.com NBA. I mean, it says really, this is live before lock. This is live before. That was intentional, Jordan. I'm saying that because Jordan's laughing at me because it's live before lock. It's not. It says strategy show, but it's live before lock because we're talking early.
He might be laughing. He might be laughing because he said NBA.
That could be why. That could definitely be why. Yeah. Well, all right. Touche, sir. Welcome to the Stochastic.com MLB live before lock strategy show, whatever you want to call it. Early slate, 6 games, and you got a slate of games tonight as well. We'll have live before lock for that. Dave Loughran, Matt Belman at Fantasy Tips. Matt, I'm Lofty_D. You know, it's this time of year where the weather, like this is a lot of weather. I don't see, honestly, Matt, how this Philly game plays tonight. I would be shocked if the Mets get that game in, even though they had to postpone yesterday. We'll talk about that later. But, dude, there's some real weather. And then Chicago. Any of you guys located in the Chicago area? Because I looked at the radar this morning when I was getting ready for this much earlier, and I just saw lake effect snow that was sitting over the Chicago area. So, yeah, for a 6-game slate, Matt, we're dealing with some real weather again today.
Massive weather, like massive unknowns too. It's not even just like we know that a couple games aren't going to play. And with each slate being like kind of small, every game matters. So like, it's hard to just be like, I'm going to avoid all the weather spots because then what are you playing? So yeah, excited to dive in, but definitely a messy slate.
The difficult part for me is that you have 4 games that start at 1 o'clock, right? 1:05, 1:10, whatever. But then you have the Atlanta-Chicago game at 2:10. All right, not bad. Cincinnati and Phillies, the Lone Island game at 4 o'clock. That's a problem.
And that's because that one got moved back already.
Correct.
So I don't know. You would know better than me about Philly. I thought, and this was just after glancing over it this morning, that with the late start, Philly would be okay, but that's clearly not the case. You just mentioned it, and now I'm reading the weather report again, and they might need an even later start. I guess I'm encouraged that they at least tried to push it back, but who the hell knows?
And they've already lost a game this season. The opening day, they didn't play. So I don't know. Look, I'm no meteorologist, but I can look at a radar and go, hey, that doesn't look great. And I'm looking at it right now. Let's see. Yeah, it doesn't look good. Maybe they just push it all the way back to like 7 or something. You think that? You think that's doable?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about travel schedules. I'm sure that they made this game in the day for a reason, but let me look to see what these teams are up to tomorrow. So tomorrow, Philly, they're off. Yeah, I don't see why they couldn't push it back because both Philly and Cincy are off tomorrow.
Okay. All right. Well, just now you guys know. And Michael Armstrong, yeah, feel free to DM me on any of that for sure. My DMs are open. All right. Well, let's go. A couple unwound said snowing here near Chicago. Yeah, it's going to be cold as shit over there too. So we'll see. It was like 35 this morning when I looked, but let's get into it. We'll go game by game for this one. I think we're going to have plenty of time. I'm not too worried about that. Other times we wouldn't, Matt, but I have no problem going game by game here. How about the fact that you and I, okay, so we've done 3 shows together, 3 strategy shows together. And the first 2, pitching was all over the map, but generally speaking, not that great at pitching. Now, some pitchers ended up being great, even if they weren't particularly expensive. You know, guys like Gallen yesterday was excellent. Who else? Assad was pretty good for Chicago, and a few other cheap guys ended up being solid. Today, though, on this early slate, you have some real marquee arms on the mound.
Real marquee arms. If weather wasn't an issue, I think that, you know, deciding between Strider, Wheeler, and Burns is a real thing. Who knows if any of them pitch today? That's a big issue. Weirdly enough, just with the pushback, I'm most confident in Wheeler pitching. It looks like there's bad weather in all these spots. That said, if the games play, it's all good pitching weather. So I don't know. When I first looked at this slate, like last night when it came out, I was like, Strider and Burns look amazing. I mean, Strider, especially against this White Sox lineup. But I'm just not confident. That's probably the game I'm least confident in playing on this slate. Burns, I don't know. Wheeler, I don't know. So it puts other guys in play just because you know they're going to actually pitch, even if they're not as good of plays as the guys up top. Interesting dynamic in that regard.
Yeah, very much so. And I will say, I ran the Sims and it's not accounting for weather yet. By the way, the White Sox have a 2.9.
Okay. All right, so I'll pick it up. Yeah, low totals throughout, especially with those top games. Yeah, like I said, if the slate were starting and there was no bad weather options, I don't really think you even need to look past the Strider, Wheeler, and Burnses on this slate, but there are. So it puts guys for me like AJ Pook back in play, Eovaldi and Savali, even though I don't love the matchups because they're both pitching in the same matchup in a dome. So yeah, I guess as far as the pitching options after those top three guys go, because again, if weather weren't an issue, Strider's the top guy in the slate, probably the top arm. If every team were in play today, he'd be the top arm on the slate. Ton to like about Strider here. Really like Corbin Burns if weather weren't an issue. Right now, all these guys are getting ownership. We'll see what happens with the weather. Again, none of these games have been postponed, but risky spots in all of them. And then Wheeler, you're going to have to wait it out because this game already got pushed back. He's the one getting the most ownership. So it'll be interesting to see if that holds. A lot to like about all these guys in their respective spots. If one or two emerge as the weather is okay, I think they become the best options on the slate. Going down from there, I mentioned Eovaldi. He's right now the highest leveraged pitcher on the slate. And again, I don't love the matchup against Tampa, but the Rays will strike out, especially against righties. And he's pitching in a dome. So there's a lot to be happy about in that regard, just considering Strider, Wheeler, Burns, all in really tough spots. There's a few really bad weather spots. There's a couple spots we're not worried about at all. And there's a couple kind of in between. So Eovaldi, well, I don't think he's in the same class as the top three guys on the slate, even though he's priced more than Wheeler. He's firmly in play for me just for the simple fact that you know he's going to pitch. And if he's pitching well, you know, there's not going to be any weather concerns pitching in Tampa. Same with Savali. Don't like the matchup. I like it even less for Savali, even though no Josh Young in the Rangers lineup. He's cheaper than Eovaldi. He's actually getting ownership. So I don't know. I don't hate using both pitchers in this game just because they're going to pitch. They're two good arms, if not elite arms. So I think they're both wildly in play. And then AJ Pook wasn't good last time out. I know he was chalk against the Pirates, ended up walking a ton of guys. I don't love him here, but he is against the Angels, and he's not getting a ton of ownership. And this game's in Miami. So I think that you can definitely look to AJ Puck here. Again, even though I don't love it. Hello.
Hold up here. Jump on this. And plugging it in is good. There we are. What's going on, my guy?
Nothing. You joining me here?
I am joining you here. Hello, hello.
Sweet.
Well, there are things that are happening here in the world, and they would include storms up there over where Laffy is. So hopefully he's staying safe here. I'm just sitting at my desk doing my normal work, so thought I would come join you. How you doing, my dude?
I appreciate it, man. Has been a minute since we did a show together, so man, I appreciate that. I was talking just the pitching options start to say, I don't know if you were listening to me, tried to keep it going without Lofty, but I certainly appreciate you coming on and helping me out.
All right. Well, let's take a look here at what we've got before us, because obviously I'm jumping in fresh here. I was working on something else here on the side as I was building my lineups, of course, but interesting 6-gamer that we have before us here in the morning session. We are covering the morning session, correct?
We are.
All right. Awesome. Awesome. Well,
And
I'll just jump on in here.
I was telling Lofty before, and I know you probably haven't even analyzed the slate that much. We can do this game by game. We can do this however you want. I'll do the analysis clearly. So whatever you're most comfortable with, just let's do it.
Yeah, who's the exotic pitcher of the night? We'll find out. We'll find out here in 2 seconds here. Jordan Klein producing good stuff. We've been live for all of what? 10 minutes or so. All right, let's party here. Nolan Kelly, hello. Good to see everybody hanging out. Let's party. Slide upgrade. No. Lofty is the GOAT. Lofty's the absolute host GOAT. There's no doubt about that one in my mind. Let's party though. Here's the way that I think we should do this, because I am jumping in a little bit cold here. I was going through my NBA stuff. Well, again, MLB is a little bit easier to build on the side. We get the lineups in. We're able to utilize the tools. We're utilizing the Sims nonstop here. And then we can just kind of party. But I think game by game sounds pretty fun, don't you? Let me know if you agree, chat.
I'm good with that. We were starting off by talking about the really bad weather spots. And if you look at the dichotomy of this slate, like there's 3 elite pitching options. All of them are in really tough weather spots. So, obviously Strider looks great. Wheeler and Burns both look great, but there's weather concerns all over there. I think that's the most important thing to just make clear here. But yeah, let's do it game by game.
Yeah, first, right off the bat, I mean, Kansas City, Baltimore, Corbin Burns, very, very important here. It is raining there. It is not too windy, it would appear. I'm seeing like 5 to 10 kind of topping out, coming in from right at the moment, but a 3.4 run implied total for Kansas City. You got Cole Ragans on the mound here. Pretty decent first start for him going up against my Twins. He ran into the Royce Lewis bomb, and now Royce Lewis might be dead, which sucks for me personally. But going through some of his velocity yesterday, everything looked to be back in short order. I don't know if we see the same kind of stuff from him this season, but this is an unbelievably good ballpark for lefties. You get the long extended field out to left field where they built up that wall. Used to be one of the most homer-friendly spots, and now it's pretty much the exact opposite. But when we're talking about tournaments here, 4.3 implied run total for Baltimore is a little bit hefty for me, and I think Cole Ragans is one of those guys that, on the surface, I just want to be rostering lefties in this ballpark with strikeout upside, because there is such an insurance policy going up against some of these righty bats. Do you feel the same way about Ragans that I do today?
I like Ragans. The other really encouraging part about Ragans is he threw 97 pitches in his debut, one of the most of any pitchers, maybe the most. I think you're right. It's a good spot in terms of the ballpark. I hate picking on Baltimore, though. And if this game plays, I have trouble going, from Burns to Ragans. I think Burns looks much better. I'm very not confident that this game starts on time and then plays uninterrupted. If they late start it, I think that both pitchers look better, albeit still with risk because the weather's bad. So again, like, this game is definitely about the pitching, both sides for sure. It's just a matter of whether you can play it. And one thing I mentioned to Lofty before he froze, and I want to say to you too, there are really good pitching options today. 3 of them, in fact. Strider, Wheeler, Burns. And then Cole Ragans also looks good. Mm-hmm. On a lot of slates with no weather, you would really just be focusing on those guys. However, guys like Aaron Savali and Eovaldi, who aren't as good of pitchers as the top guys, are way more in play on a slate like today because they're pitching in a dome and they're going to pitch. So I think it's just worth at least mentioning that a couple of the games could get canceled. It's all about risk tolerance, what you're going to do there. On paper, you're right. I think Ragans looks good. Not as good as the top guys. Right now with his ownership, I probably wouldn't play him, but I still think he's a high strikeout upside, and the ballpark does do him some favors here. So this game's all about the pitching for me.
See, I love slates like this to take these kind of opportunities, because there's so many times you're going to lose an MLB DFS as it is. Like, you're going to, it's so hard to have the perfect combination, but one thing you can do is you can look at the DK early slate over in the top pitchers tool, and you have a guy like Cole Reagans, where 18.4% top two percentage, 23.6% ownership, but all these weather concerns, they're not necessarily showing up in that ownership right now. I know there are going to be people like me who don't really care, and you have to just fire it up here in an allotment of lineups. Also, if you're only playing one lineup, you have to accept the risk of just taking a zero there and that you're not going to win. Maybe that isn't necessarily worth it. But when you're building out for like the $4, when you're building out for the 15 or whatever you might be playing, the main iterations of tournaments, if you're MMEing and going through that process, I think you're more inclined to get to Cole Reagans. But I know for you, if MLB is similar to the NBA streets, are you kind of playing three max, playing one lineup? I definitely don't think Cole Reagans would be the way to go for you.
Yeah, no, I'm playing three lineups today, so Reagans is not for me. But yeah, good point in at least mentioning that, because in multi-entry, I think he's much more in play. And I'm with you. Like, I like slates like this also because it's a big risk tolerance slate. And
Yep.
I don't like it in the fact that it's weather and that's so random, but I do like the game theory part of it.
Yeah, definitely love the game theory part of it. Speaking of, there's a guy who's a lot lower owned than Spencer Strider. And Spencer Strider, let me tell you, I think he's going to absolutely smash. There is that. But Corbin Burnes looked incredible. You're already going to look at some major regret up there in Milwaukee if this pans out the way that I think it's going to for Corbin Burnes. And the AL East is no joke, but Kansas City is not in the AL East. And this is a phenomenal matchup already this season. We have a small sample size on guys, but I expect guys like Bobby Witt, Hunter Renfroe, Nelson Velasquez, they're all going to strike out quite a bit at the same time that Bobby Witt's one of the best hitters on the planet. But you get by him, Corbin Burnes, everything looked good with the cutter right from the get-go. Curveball, changeup, everything's in order. Working through his pitch mix resulted in a massive outing his first time out. He's pulling half the ownership, basically, of Spencer Strider, though, here at the moment. I'm looking at 43.3% top two percentage because of the matchup and, well, overall what Spencer Strider's capable of doing here. It's actually moved up. It's pretty close. 30% Corbin Burnes here now. A little bit of negative leverage, but 3.2 implied run total here for Kansas City. There's no doubt that Corbin Burnes is somebody I want to build out for, a few lineups for sure, but do I prioritize him over Spencer Strider? Probably not. If you're building out one lineup, is Corbin Burnes somebody that you would want to be getting to over Strider or over Wheeler or anybody else in this top range?
I think it's Strider, number one, and then Burnes and Wheeler. I mean, just the matchup, the strikeout upside. Now, this is all weather aside because all three games have big weather issues. I think Burnes looks great here. I think you could quibble between him and Wheeler. Burnes is getting less ownership. Wheeler's cheaper and looks a little bit better in our tools. I'd probably side Wheeler, but I don't think you can do wrong in Wheeler or Burnes. And I'd love to play one of those guys with Strider, if that's doable. And I hate sounding like a broken record, but I'm just worried that any of these games are going to actually play.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to see a late start, but obviously that doesn't do us any good in DFS, where once the game locks, it is locked.
Right.
And that makes it a little bit more difficult to gauge. I just pulled up all of my different stuff just to make sure I have the weather alerts. My phone's over in the corner. So wanted to make sure that I had that set up here in case there is a late start, something we want to be paying attention to. But working through these lineups, Vinny Pasquantino is always somebody that you can one-off. I think he's going to be somebody that against good righties, I'll still one-off because I think the power, the caliber is just going to be there this season, like batting third. But I mean, God, 3.2 implied run total, weather concerns, Kansas City, not at the top of the priority list today.
No, definitely not. Very, very, very low.
Yeah, if you get to a couple of pieces, again, Sal Perez, catcher option, has first base eligibility now over on DK as well. There will be times that Sweet Melendez, MJ Melendez there for KC, he'll be another lefty that I get to against some of these righties. But Corbin Burnes, I will side with that, and I will side with just kind of being underweight or not having the Kansas City Royals. How about Baltimore, though? You said it's an offense that, they definitely bring the power, but that left field fence is a real thing against some lefties who, basically have pull contact, and that's going to be Cole Reagans here. I don't really like Baltimore, and I don't think this is going to be a team that, unless everybody hits eject on, that I'm going to be landing on. I'm definitely more on the Cole Reagans side of things today. What are you planning to do with them?
They're always in play because they're really good, but on this particular slate, I respect Reagans. I don't like them as much against lefties. So they're like a definite not priority stack. I mean, the argument you could make for Baltimore is that two of the teams in the top 4 in our top stack tool are the Angels and Marlins because of the spots they're in. Well, Baltimore's offense is infinitely better than both those teams. So like on any given day, Baltimore has the power speed upside to get it done. But this matchup in particular, it would only be for like multi-entering type stuff. I do think that they look about the same as Reagan's though, slate considered with the other pitching options considered.
All right. Well, anything else from this game for you? Again, for me, Cole Reagans and probably 1, Corbin Burnes 2. I know that seems counterintuitive, but 8,200 going through the K rates from the second half of last season and right off the get-go. I mean, Cole Reagans is going to be a dude who I think is able to rack them up. Had a 3.33 expected ERA last season as well, 28.8% K rate. Everything looks good. As you said, 97 pitches. That's my priority in this game. I'm only playing about 20% of him at the moment, but maybe I'll get a little bit more if the weather is even more concerning for people. But my guess is we get a late start here, but that is not official.
I'm with you.
All right, cool. We continue on our merry way. Hit that like button too. Obviously, coming in relief, bring in the righty. That's me. And speaking of, we got a righty in Nathan Eovaldi taking on Aaron Civale. Aaron Civale, really good stuff. Tampa Bay just finds ways to tune these arms and make them better. It's just insane how they're able to do it with Eflin and Civale and all of these dudes just nonstop every single year. But let's start with the road team. Eovaldi, he's primarily a fastball guy. We saw at the tail end of last season, he can be a workhorse. He, was dinged up, but then World Series champions for a reason. Nathan Eovaldi was definitely a piece of that, but no strikeouts, no real swing and miss stuff right out the get-go of this season, but it's one start. We don't want to go completely nuts with one start and having that be the deal. My issue is Tampa Bay is just a good offense, and this is a primary just fastball changeup pitcher that they should be able to at least put the bat on the ball. I don't think there's nearly as much strikeout upside. And when you have a Spencer Strider and a Zach Wheeler and a Corbin Burnes on this slate, and even a Cole Reagans, who again, the strikeout upside is there, I don't think Eovaldi at 9K is really showing up for me. The ownership is super, super low though. Is he intriguing to you on this slate?
Very much so. And it's more just because the weather in the other spots. This is what I was trying to say before. Like if there were no weather issues, I wouldn't even look at Eovaldi here. I don't love the matchup. He's too expensive. He's higher than Wheeler, but there's a chance Wheeler, Strider, and Burnes don't pitch. And Eovaldi's pitching in a dome here in Tampa against a right-handed heavy lineup. So this is where the risk tolerance comes in. I think Eovaldi is a much safer play than any of the top guys right now. He's also coming in with a ton of leverage. Again, I don't like the matchup. Tampa's good, like you said. They will strike out against righties. I'm certainly not going out of my way to pick on them. But yeah, Eovaldi's in play for me for the reasons I just said, and highest leverage pitcher on the slate. I'll take that for sure. I also like Civale on the other side. He's even cheaper in that same good weather spot against a little watered down Texas lineup, missing Josh Young. I could see playing both pitchers in this game for sure.
Yeah, Josh Young, that's a brutal deal with him there. Wyatt Langford batting up higher in the order here. He's just freaking good. We're going to see him erupt sooner rather than later. It's definitely a tough spot, but Aaron Civale, another pitcher, you just go back to 2023, 3.69 expected ERA. There aren't a lot of lefties outside of the Corey Seager that I'm worried about here in this lineup. So you're obviously going to see pretty righty heavy lineups. Jared Walsh being one of the lefties, Josh H. Smith. Haven't been super impressed by him so far in his young career, batting 6th. You have a switch hitter there in Jonah Heim, I suppose, but weaker side for him. This is a pretty sneaky good spot, I think, for Aaron Civale. And the price, I mean, I would almost like flip-flop Civale and Eovaldi based on what we've got in front of them. So I think you're getting a pretty decent discount. Obviously, he is a more popular SP2 here at 23.6% ownership, but I'm more than fine to fire him up. I'm definitely with you there. I think Civale more of the chosen side here for me, allows me to get to some bigger offenses there with him as my SP2. But let's talk about these offenses. Tropicana has, it's never been somewhere that you've really wanted to roster a ton of hitters, but now you get good offenses. And I do think Eovaldi is somebody that I do want to maybe target a little bit. I wish the ownership was higher on him to do it, but starting on the Texas side, just talked about the lefties. You obviously have Seager. You obviously have Jared Walsh, I suppose, is the other lefty there, and some power in the likes of Wyatt Langford and Adolis Garcia. But Are you getting to Texas at all on this slate?
No, not a spot I want to look at offenses. Again, you can make the case that both these offenses are in spots where the game's going to play. But I think there's better offense. There's a couple other games that are definitely going to play, and I like the offenses more in those games. I like the pitching in this game.
Yeah, I think the pitching is going to be my priority here as well, except for I do have a little bit of Tampa Bay interest. I'll kind of go through a couple of these pieces. I mean, Brandon Lau, just going back to 2 years ago, it would have been, had an unbelievable season. It hasn't necessarily been there the way that you would want in like 20. Yeah. So still going through the sample size, 47.5% hard hit last season. He struck out a lot at 27.3%. Who cares? I don't really care in terms of DFS. This should be an opportunity, I think, for Brandon Lau to be kind of a sneaky one-off. Working through some of the ownership here as well. Like Isaac Paredes batting for cleanup here today. Richie Palacios isn't very good, but such is life. I do like the top half of Tampa Bay to get a little bit different than like a 5-3, 5-2. I think I'll get to a little bit of them going up against Evaldi, mainly because I don't think Evaldi is going to be missing as many bats going forward. I mean, 22.4% K rate in 2022, 22.9%. I mean, we're kind of looking at a guy who used to have pretty sublime stuff, and he can pitch into deep games, and he throws a flamethrower, 95, 96 on the fastball. But I am interested in fastball hitters like Lau here. Anybody else from Tampa Bay interesting to you at all?
No, but I'm with you. I think Tampa, for me, looks better than Texas at least. So
yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you
don't
there.
love them. That said, our top stack tool likes Texas more. I mean, they're similar, but Texas is higher and getting less ownership. So in tournaments, I think you could make the case for Texas, but on paper, I'm with you. I like Tampa more.
All righty, we'll continue on our merry way. But first, of course, the MLB Sims. I see there's a tweet from Peter Hanley. This guy is absolutely out of his mind good at MLB DFS. And I mean, I just love seeing that the Sims are a part of his process. It's a massive part of my process here as well. I am simulating a bunch of lineups, and some of the new stack types that we've innovated there, that our data team has innovated over there, has made life so much easier to build exactly what you feel the field is going to be utilizing in their lineups. Allows for us to maybe not just have the standardized 5-2-1s, the 5-3s, the 5-1-1-1s. You have an opportunity to get some varied stacks and really see how they perform when you simulate a slate over and over again, thousands and thousands of times. And so if you want to check out the MLB Sims, now is the time to be utilizing that. Again, Peter Hanley, he's fantastic, but like, the Sims are making such a big difference in the NBA process for me, and I love the way that my lineups have turned out the last couple of days here in the MLB streets as well. It is, not been a perfect deal in terms of like some of the adjustments that I've made, but if I let this thing run unencumbered with our data and paying attention to weather, I guarantee you're going to have a leg up on the competition, because this is the future. MLB Sims is the thing that you want to get yourself familiar with sooner rather than later, rather than your standard optimizers. So code DINGER right now, 30% off to be able to try that out. Very cool stuff here, 30%. Save that, my friends, using promo code DINGER. Start getting familiar with these tools before everybody has a stochastic avatar at the top of leaderboards. You want to be one of those. You definitely want to be one of those, my friends. Alrighty, y'all, we continue on, but first, Royals-Orioles will be delayed due to inclement weather on Wednesday. I'm sure we'll come back to this here, Matt Belman, but I do think that this is good for what I would look at the upside for pitchers to be, because I do think if they can wait it out till the afternoon, there's an opportunity. I love using google.com and typing in Baltimore, or, trying to find Wind Finder and put it by the stadium, but did not do that this morning, simply looking at google.com. I think this bodes well for the pitching if they play. How are you feeling about the delay?
I think you're exactly right. Still not overly confident they play, but I think it's definitely better for the pitching. And the weather report does say that like the afternoon seems a lot clearer. So I'm not a meteorologist. I don't know anything about this stuff. I'll wait for people that know about this to let me know what I should think.
Yeah, you're doing great. You're doing great. Again, everybody's equipped with a phone. Everybody's equipped with Google. So it takes 2 seconds to be able to look. And it would appear to me, just, as the person who always looks at that for his golf, checking out what I need to bring in terms of clothing when I go play golf different places, it would appear that it should get a little bit drier. I think they'll be fine here. I'm thinking, because it's also 10 on the West Coast, and what would it be, 1 o'clock there, that's a large window of time to find to find a little baseball this afternoon. So I think they'll be just fine. We continue on to the Angels game. The Angels and the Marlins here, basically identical 4-3, 4-4 implied totals here. 8.5, 9-ish totals. Pretty large when you talk about Lone Depot Park out there in Miami. But on one side of this one, lefty that struggled, and on the other side, another lefty that struggled in their debut, starting with Patrick Sandoval, completely lit up against Baltimore. It was a perfect weather spot. I was really disappointed by the early walks that got him in trouble there. 2 walks in that first, it was in the first inning. Ends up just getting lit up, only goes 1 2/3. I don't think I can fire him up today. The ownership isn't there, though. His top 2 percentage is only above Tanner Banks. And well, Tanner Banks isn't pitching far into that game whatsoever. So the worst potential pitcher on this slate, the guy I have 0 of, Patrick Sandoval, should I reconsider?
No, I'm high on the Miami stack here. So Sandoval's not a guy for me. I think you could say the same thing about Sandoval as you can like the guys in the Tampa game, but I like the guys in the Tampa game much more. So that's how I see it.
Yep, I am with you. I think Miami is going to be a team that I'm getting to quite a bit. Going through my first run of Sims here at the moment, I am going to be able to talk a little bit more informed about what I have rather than just my inputs that I had for pitcher, which, again, I'm doing a little bit more uploading my stuff and having that situated. But on the other side of this, probably the most disappointing performance relative to expectations, because AJ Puck is a dude. Anybody who's ever watched this dude pitch coming out of the pen last season knows how dynamic his stuff can be. He's a big lefty. He has absolute flame-throwing capabilities. He's got an amazing slider that goes with it. He just had a massive walk problem, and it bit him, and things just went south in that first outing. But it's only one outing. And these Angels, friends, these Angels, I know that they showed up yesterday to some extent, but again, such a small sample size, they're going to strike out a ton. And I feel really good about a potential bounce back for Mr. AJ Puck. He's only got 15.8% ownership. If he had just pitched neutral last time out, you would be looking at AJ Puck being the chalk of all chalk on this slate at 7K. I love getting to him. He is one of my favorite pitchers. I believe him, Strider, my 2 highest owned pitchers at the moment. No weather concerns. Is AJ Puck somebody who's on your radar?
100%. I'm with you. Not getting a ton of love. Good weather spot. If we had Strider, Wheeler, and Burns, no weather issues there, I think he would look like the contrarian cheap option to pair with one of those guys. But as it stands now, I think he looks like one of the best options. Chalk last slate, not getting a lot of love today. You know who you're getting into bed with a guy like this. Like, he's potentially going to walk a ton of guys and ruin your day. But his strikeout upside is massive, especially in this spot. I was just looking. Give me 1 second to pull this up. So the Angels are 27th in K percentage this far. They're even worse against lefties. So a bunch of sharp people I know are on his over strikeouts here. And I like him in DFS at 7K in this matchup.
Yeah, and we're going to expect some regression here. 38.2% K rate to lefties, a 29.9% K rate to righties last season. It's going to come down a little bit, I believe, as a starter, now as a lengthened out starter than him coming out of the pen and being able to throw gas. But let's talk the Angel stack, because this is typical baseball where I love AJ Puck, but you got to be, I'm definitely going to have some Angels bats in my portfolio for today. He had a 190 expected ISO against right-handed hitters last season. And guess what? There's 9 of those idiots that are going to be over on the Angels side of things. 9 righties coming to the plate. Mike Trout, Anthony Rendon, Aaron Hicks at the top of this thing. Miguel Sano, somebody just put in chat. Can't believe he's still in the league. Yep, sure is. My big fat friend from Minnesota. Those were great days until they weren't. Until, he just got out of control. But I have some AJ Puck. He's my second highest owned pitcher. But I also have myself some Angels. Is this a team you're rostering?
Yeah, I think both sides look good. If I were multi-entering, I would definitely play both. I'm playing limited lineup, so probably will just play the Puck side, but I will play one of the sides here, either Puck or the Angels. I think one of the sides looks really good.
Poirier Jefferson, are we chopping games, chat? Yeah, be paying attention to the weather. Kansas City, Baltimore. That's the first one that pops up at lock here. We got what? Just under 30 minutes. So 28 minutes here until lock. We'll be paying close attention to that. I don't think we're going to have news on when they're going to start that game. I just think you want to be careful because Kansas City, you don't necessarily have to be as concerned with that 3.2 implied run total. A really good starter in Corbin Burns, but Cole Reagans is really the guy that it's like, oh, I want to be rostering him. I want to get there, especially, if there's going to be any Baltimore interest, but with the delay, we'll see. We'll see. I'm going to be paying attention to the ownership, paying attention to the tools, and letting them do a little bit of the work. And then if I need to pull the game here for anything that I'm noticing or anybody else is noticing, we will definitely do so. But let's jump over to the Miami side of things because, again, Patrick Sandoval confirmed not very good at the baseballs, but Miami's off to a little bit of a slow start themselves. You do have more of a interesting configuration going Bell, Berger, De La Cruz there at the top of this lineup. Avisel Garcia, somebody that I'm just shocked has been as bad as what he's been the last 2 seasons. Hopefully that can regress towards the mean in a positive fashion, but I'm not in love with Miami here at the same time that I'm not really getting to Patrick Sandoval. Would love for them both to just do a little bit against each other, but nothing damaging. Miami, are they showing up in that one lineup of yours?
Yeah, I'm playing 3, but they are showing up for me.
Okay.
Yeah, Miami looks really good here. I think Sandoval's okay. He's not special. He's not a complete trash can, but this lineup sets up better against lefties. You've got, presumably like the best hitting weather on the slate just because it's in Florida. A lot to like about Miami here. I think that they look like one of the best stacks on the entire slate in my eyes.
That game is not going to play. I doubt the other 2 will either. I'm not sure, but that leaves you very, very limited opportunities to make money when you're talking about 3 potential games. You could write off Cincy, Philly. You could write off Kansas City, Baltimore. I do think Atlanta or Chicago looks good to me at the moment. It is freaking cold. It is awful out. But I do think that game is going to be all right to play. There look like there's more breaks in weather there than the other 2 for whatever it is worth. But Miami, can you tell me who's your favorite? If you had to roster one bat as a one-off, or if you were looking at one specific play going up against Patrick Sandoval, who would it be?
This is ugly, but considering weather and ownership and guys around him, I'm going to go Tim Anderson.
That is ugly. Tim Anderson. He likes himself some Tim Anderson. So there's that little confidence boost. Looking at righties, though, up against Patrick Sandoval, 155 expected ISO. So, I mean, you definitely want to be targeting those ones. I got to think that Araz, got to be thinking Jazz Chisholm, not my favorite plays here whatsoever. Sometimes left on left, I'll really make an aggressive stand for because it just seems like they get penalized unnecessarily, but not huge fans of getting to them here. Jake Berger would be my guy, just coming off of 139 plate appearances last year, 325 x ISO against lefties, specifically pretty damn good against fastballs. 733 expected ISO against fastballs last season. Maybe don't throw him some meatballs, but if they do, very much looking forward to Jake Berger hitting it yard here. He is in one of my 3 max lineups at the moment, but that's the only Miami bat that I think I have at the moment, and anything of any noticeable amounts. Anything else from this game whatsoever? Cool. Let's go to a good weather spot here then, friends, after we talk Sleeper. Yes, Sleeper, my friends. They are the sponsor of the program. And, the Pick'em Streets, if you're in a state that doesn't have legalized sports betting, the Pick'em Streets can be very, very profitable still, especially when they're giving you $500 deposit matches. So if you have an opportunity, take money when it is given to you. Seems pretty fair to me. So check out Sleeper, friends. You sign up at the link below there. They do a lot of great free square stuff, discounted square stuff, starting to get more intertwined there into the Pick'em game is Sleeper. And again, $500 first match deposit bonus is pretty ridiculous stuff. So take advantage of that. Really cool. Sign up for that down at the link below. We have tons of great pick'em opportunities for you to go make some money. And then the fantasy optimizers, which is just going to do a lot of the work for you over at OddsShopper. Identify the best plays on the board, whether it be in Prize Picks, Better, Sleeper, DraftKings Pick 6. So many great opportunities to make some money utilizing the OddsShopper tools. Yeah, sleeper, part of that program as well. So up to $500 on a first match deposit, you can win up to 100x payouts. They have home run plays available to you. So if you are looking to invest in a home run on a Jake Burger, burger and fries action, get yourself over to Sleeper. Take advantage here right now. White Nose DFS, super windy here in Miami, by the way. Yeah, the roof is open there. It looks like it's blowing out to left here as well. But AJ Puck, I got to back the strikeout stuff to some extent here. Maybe tone it down a tiny bit, but yeah, that is going to be an interesting spot. You rarely ever see 8.5, 9 implied totals, or I guess totals period in those kind of environments. So be paying attention to that. But we continue on, my friend, to my Minnesota Twins taking on the Milwaukee Brewers. Chris Paddack, Joe Ross. Chris Paddack, more familiar from his San Diego days. I don't think there's anything really special for him here. And considering there is a roof over the top of their heads here in Milwaukee, going to be a decent hitting environment. I'm not going to be getting to Chris Paddack, are you?
No, not going to be getting to Paddack. Just, I don't think there's any reason to.
Yeah, there's not really any reason for me either. I don't know. What did he get in his last AAA, or it's not AAA, Grapefruit League play? Because the strikeout stuff wasn't really there. 4.73 ERA, 1.58 whip, 10 strikeouts and 13 in the third. That's not going to be ideal. And there's definitely some lefties that I want to be invested in. This is his first start since what? Middle of May 2022. So Chris Paddack, I don't think he's set up for a ton of success here going up against Milwaukee. Much more interest in the Milwaukee bats. But Joe Ross, I'm not sure what to do with him because there's no ownership coming in on him. He's 6,600. I don't have a lot of Patrick Sandoval interest, but Joe Ross at 6,600, $200 cheaper than Sandoval. He does give you some value. 22.8% top 2 value score in the top pitchers tool. I feel as though he's somebody that when I finish up my lineups, I'll actually get to. Joe Ross, are you going to be rostering him?
No, I get it. Because, like, after AJ Puck, who's not safe at all, like, Ross is cheap, not the worst spot, but I don't know. Kind of, I feel similarly about him as I do Paddack. Like, these guys just don't look good in our top pitcher tool. Coming in with nice leverage, both of them are, and he's cheaper than Paddack, so I would get to him first. But I just don't think you need it. If you do, it's a fine play, you know?
Yeah, I feel like I'm going to be playing both sides of this one a little bit. I have a little bit more interest in Joe Ross. Just going through some of his stuff as well, going back to 2021, because it's been a hot second. 4.24 expected ERA. He's okay with the strikeout stuff. What was that? 23.7% K rate was pretty decent once upon a time. Looking through his pitch arsenal, again, this is from 2 years ago, though. So I think we're kind of flying a little bit blind. I'm pulled up his spring training data here, too. I don't know. It feels like such an unknown, and I'm just kind of willing to embrace that kind of spot early in the season if there's no ownership, and I'm willing to fade if there's lots of ownership. So people have kind of decided Joe Ross is bad, and I think they're probably more than likely right, but 4.2% ownership on a pitcher I know is pitching today, that is very interesting to me.
I'm with you. I think that, yeah, you can make the same case for Ross as you can like Eovaldi, just at much different price points, and they're both getting about the same ownership.
I'm going through this. Yeah, I got to fire it up against the Twins. I mean, my Twins are going to strike out an absolute metric ton. A little bit less now that you get a Carlos Santana into this lineup, but for the most part, a team that is pretty aggressive at the old plate with Alex Kirilloff, Byron Buxton, Max Kepler. But yeah, Santana batting 6th today. When he was higher up in the order, that might have been a little bit more of a discount, but this is a classic. Yeah, I will get to the under-owned pitcher. I do like my Twins 4.4 implied run total. That's basically identical to every team outside of the Atlanta Braves amongst these top teams in the top stacks tool. But Minnesota, give me some Alex Kirilloff. Give me some, Ryan Jeffers, sub 4K catcher. But I'm not in love with this stack the way that I would be on other slates, purely because Ross isn't pulling a ton of ownership. There's not a lot of leverage to be gained there. Still, put a roof over their head. Good times. How's Minnesota look to you?
Minnesota looks good. They're getting love, so I hate that. But they should be. They're projected to be them, and this is games getting the most love of any game on the slate as far as offenses go. Not overwhelming, so I don't think you can't play it because of that, but worth noting, this game's getting love. Two weak pitchers, so it's no surprise. I think both offenses are definitely in play, just a matter of whether you want to eat that ownership.
Yeah, you're eating the ownership because this is now a 6-game slate where we have 3 massive weather spots. And I think Minnesota just kind of looks good with the unknown of Joe Ross on the other side. Again, I'm kind of inclined to get to Ross as kind of a leverage going up against that more popular stack here in the Twins. But we will see as I finish this up because we've got just less than 20 minutes. We've got good time.
Who do you prefer between these two offenses, Milwaukee or Minnesota?
I mean, my heart says one thing, my head says another. I definitely want to attack Chris Paddock to some extent. You go back to 2023 here. I understand that against righties, he was pretty good. Sub, what is it? 0.074 expected ISO. That's pretty interesting, but there wasn't a whole lot of sample size to be gained. Going back to 2022, however, that's going to give us a better picture of what we're looking at. Still under a 100 expected ISO against righties, so that's fun. But the lefties, a 140 expected ISO, and you get Yelich, who 467 plate attempts last season, 202 expected ISO against righties. You go to Rhys Hoskins, who obviously was hurt all of last season, so no sample size to be gained from them. We know he's pretty darn good. I really like Bauers here. I think this is like my home run play of the day, 0.255 expected ISO, 255 expected ISO against righties in 244 plate appearances. That's a nifty sample size. And you work through the primary pitches, which is fastball slider, the primary pitches for Paddock here. 268 expected ISO and 269 expected ISO against those two pitches particularly. And that's going to be a majority of Paddock's arsenal. Bauers goes yard here for us. That would be fantastic stuff. Is he in the lineup? He's not even in the lineup today. What the fuck?
So I guess you're taking him to come off the bench and hit a pinch hit homer?
No, I'm not. I'm not doing that. I'm just looking at it. That sucks. Why would they not have that? I'm so glad I didn't bet that yet because I was going to bet that after the show because we've got like an hour and change. FanDuel had that up earlier and I was like, do I not? Yeah, this is wild. But they've got Sal Frelick in the lineup, who I don't think is very good. Did Bauers get hurt? Why is he not in this lineup?
I'm not sure.
I'm so tilted because he had 3 bad games. All of a sudden, you're just not going to play him. So that's a downgrade for the Milwaukee lineup for whatever it's worth, if anybody cares. I had my projected lineup up here. I didn't upload the sheet yet because I've got 15 minutes to do it for that game. Contreras, Yelich, what are we doing here? What is this lineup today? I don't like this at all.
I like this lineup.
You do like it?
You don't like it because no Jake Bauers? I mean, he sucks.
No, I don't like it because Frelick sucks, and Sanchez is terrible and washed, and Joey Ortiz and Bryce Terang is not very good neither. So you're basically playing chalk 1 through 5. That's not an enjoyable experience for me.
I agree with that. It does make like the bottom of their lineup look weaker. So I don't love either of these teams as chalk, but the top half of Milwaukee's lineup looks pretty good. I mean, on paper.
Agreed. And that's where it's like, I think I can do the Contreras Yelich 2-step. Like I can get down with my bad self and roster that.
For sure. With that.
Yeah, that's going to be, what a tilt fest. I like how I just kind of am going through my stuff and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to bring Bauers up. And then he's not even in the freaking lineup. So dumb.
Funny.
Funny's one word for it. I'm a little tilted. Anyway, you guys could smash that like button. That would be very, very useful. Again, got brought in from the pen. Hopefully Lofty and Power and things are regaining there. We've got 14 minutes to cover 2 games. 2 games, I believe, that we have left on this one. Nope, we've got all of like 1 game left. Is that correct? Atlanta, Chicago. Is that all we have left? Oh, Cincy, Philly. Yeah. We got to talk Cincy, Philly. Cincy, Philly.
I forgot Cincy, Philly.
Yep. Atlanta, Chicago. This one matters big time. Pay attention to the weather, my friends. It is cold. It is awful. There is snow potentially falling out there, according to my Chicago folks who keep bitching about it. I'm like, you can do something and move. That's an idea, but that's neither here nor there. Plus, Chicago, one of the best summer cities that one could ever go to. But Atlanta, they have this Spencer Strider character on the mound. I heard he's good at throwing of the baseballs, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, if there were no weather concerns here, he'd be a lock. I mean, this matchup doesn't get better. The White Sox are atrocious. I actually think they have the worst offense in baseball, below Oakland and Colorado. You could quibble with those. I wouldn't argue with you if you preferred a matchup with one of the other teams. You know what I mean? It's like 6 and 1, half dozen the other for me. Great pitching weather. Worried about whether he pitches here, and you're paying full price for Strider. But man, he is the best DFS pitcher we've seen in a minute. Like, even more so than like the DeGroms and all of them. He's the best that I can remember seeing in a long time. And that certainly bears its fruit today against the White Sox. So presuming this game plays, he's the best pitcher on this slate, and he would be the best pitcher on a 15-game slate today, you know?
Yeah, he's undeniably incredible. And the ownership might be depressed because of the weather. I don't care. Again, there are going to be so many days that you lose at MLB DFS. It is about taking advantage when you can. And this is one of those guys where if he were like 50, 55% owned, maybe we could even have the conversation about it. But 41.1% top 2 pitcher percentage, that's not counting the number of times that he's going to show up and just have enough raw points that you want to have him in the lineup with the configuration of somebody else. And as you brought up, this is as good of a matchup as you can possibly run into. I mean, this White Sox lineup on the back half of it, because, I mean, Benintendi still has some kind of utility at the major league level. Yohan Moncada.
The back half of this lineup is just trash. Her name is Chastity. She is white trash. Like, it's so bad.
Corey Lee, what are we doing here? This is not a major league lineup in the back half of this. And Spencer Strider, he's just going to be able to mow down everybody here. I would just argue this is like as good of a spot as you could ever run into when you add the weather, the pitching arm who's up there. And then, I mean, Gavin Sheets is the guy that at 136x ISO, like, that would be the only dude whatsoever that in batting cleanup that could potentially go yard with this weather. But like Luis Robert, of course, but I mean, right on right, you're just going to see murder from Spencer Strider. 0.077x ISO. Again, I don't even know how to say these kind of numbers because they look make-believe, but a 120 expected ISO against lefties has given up a little bit of power. Benintendi has no power. Moncada 178x ISO last year, but Gavin Sheets, I don't think I'm going to be playing the leverage game with him or any of these White Sox. Are you?
Nah.
Nope.
Definitely not. Not even a nod. No chance in hell. Even if I were playing 150, I would play the Royals over the White Sox. I'm not stacking against Strider in a spot like this. Like, there might be spots to do it. If you were getting crazy amount of ownership against an actual good team, then maybe you could even think about it. But no, like, it's baseball. Weird shit can happen, but that's not the route I'm going to take.
All right. Well, we covered that one because that feels pretty clear cut. I mean, if the weather is looking good, just fire up Strider in bulk. I have no problem with as much of him as you want. He's the best pitcher on the slate relative to ownership. He's the best matchup on the slate. I mean, I'll give Wheeler his props. He's very, very good as well. So I'm not going to say just straight out the best pitcher on the slate, but that is what he is from a DFS perspective.
I think he is the best pitcher on the slate. And I love Wheeler too. And I think Corbin Burns is really good, but I think Strider right now is the best pitcher of baseball. The other weird dynamic about this, though, is like there's only 2 games that start later. So, like, you could get screwed if you're hoping that one of these games plays. Like, there's a definite risk tolerant slate. That'll be really interesting to see, like, where ownership actually comes in on guys. It's hard to project ownership today because of the weather.
I would agree with that. It's going to be very, very difficult to understand where the ownership is going to come down. But again, that's what the Sims tool, you're going to be able to get the optimal percentage. And if you need to pull a game, pull a damn game. You're not going to know, again, 9 minutes until Kansas City, Baltimore locks. I am going to take a little bit down here with Mr. Cole Reagans. I'm going to pull it down. Don't want to necessarily have 20% of him with some of this weather and the unknowns. Corbin Burns going to be getting to a little bit of him, but I will say the upside of a Strider in this spot, if this game plays clean, looks pretty damn good to me. And then, of course, we'll get to Wheeler. And this is the game I'm the most concerned about on the slate. I know that might sound a little wild, but I thought the weather looked downright awful here. You saw Bryce Harper hit 3 home runs with like a helmet with tons of shit. I mean, it's cold. It is freaking cold in Philly. And going to be one of those things that we have to get to. But first, this Atlanta offense, they are a problem on this slate. They have over a 5 implied total. And, well, Eric, you haven't brought up a pitcher here from the White Sox side yet. Yeah, because they're going to go bullpen approach, which is never my favorite thing. But they are mega chalk. They are the highest implied total. And if you're going to play expensive pitchers, tough to get to them. But there's still configurations where you can land on 3, you can land on 5, and it is doable even with a Strider, even with a Corbin Burns or a Zach Wheeler. Atlanta. If you're building one lineup like you are today,
I'm playing 3.
Oh, you're playing 3. Awesome. Is Atlanta
Remember,
one of them?
Come on. I've told you that 3 times now that I'm playing 3. So you got it. I'm just playing with you.
Easy.
I know.
Easy.
You're out of the pen today.
I'm all right.
So the thing about the Braves, the only thing I will push back on you is that they're not mega chalk. I mean, right now they're projected to be the 3rd highest owned team on the slate. They have a 19% chance of being the top stack, 12% ownership. My problem with them is if I'm confident they play, I like Strider more than them. Very hard to fit Strider and them. That being said, like, this is one where, yeah, they have bad weather, but they're so much better than whatever the White Sox are going to be throwing out at them that they're in play for sure. I don't think you have to sell your soul for them with the Angels and the Twins and the Marlins all in good spots, but ownership is even between those teams. And at the end of the day, I'll usually take the Braves in spots like that.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. Like, I mean, the Braves, I'm pulling this up right now. My concern is the weather, depending on where you're looking at, looks better than what it does. Like, just to play baseball, it's cold, it's terrible. But I'm saying, if this game goes to first pitch, like if you get to lock of this game and it's good to go, I think you fire it up in bulk. That's because you have to wait a little bit more time for the really uncomfortable Cincy Philly game that we're going to finish out our show with, where I don't know what to make of it, but I do know you could get something super insanely underowned. You could get something super insanely popular based on what happens with some of these earlier pieces. So like dicey to have the 2 games that lock after this window. We have 4 games that lock now, and then you've got the 2 that we're waiting on, including this one where it's just like, best of luck. You hope one plays. I think it's more likely Atlanta, Chicago is. But let's jump over to Cincy Philly to round out the program here. Smash the like button again, bringing it up. Oh, Justin, $5 super chat. Are we still playing Burns or is the weather too risky? Do we pivot to Wheeler or is that going to be postponed too? That's the name of this slate. Like, there are no sure things. I would say Mr. Spencer Strider is the guy that I think is the most likely of the 3 to be pitching today based on the weather. Even though it's the coldest, there's at least not a ton of precipitation relative to the other 2 spots. So what do you feel about Mr. Burns? Are you going to be firing him up in the next 5 minutes?
I was on mute, I think. I was on mute. Sorry.
Oh, you're good.
This is kind of a pussy take, but I think, and again, you have made the point a couple of times this show, like when you play MLB, you're going to lose more often than any DFS.
Yes.
You're going to lose more often than not anyways. So might as well play the variance and not even care about the weather. I agree with that. But I also agree with like the counter that you're going to probably lose anyway. So why even throw more risk and play the weather games? So I'm avoiding those games, knowing that some of those plays are really, really good. I'm not playing Burns. I'm not playing Strider right now. I'm not playing Wheeler right now. More than likely, at least one of those games plays, but if they all don't, I'm in a really good spot. And even if they play, like I might still be in a really good spot because my guys might just do well anyways. So that's the route I'm taking on this slate. I don't fault anyone for taking a different route, but for me, no, I'm not playing Burns.
All right. Well, let's finish this one out with the, well, it's not even evening. It's like 4 p.m. start time here, 1 o'clock. The most unknowns on the entire slate, Frankie Montas versus Zach Wheeler. And if you knew this game was getting fired up, you'd be playing both pitchers. You'd be playing both offenses. They both have capabilities to do things. Maybe not as much Cincinnati offense for sure, but Zach Wheeler, currently our highest owned pitcher, which might not come to fruition because, again, crazy weather concerns. 4 games locking here in a second. But gosh darn it, it's a phenomenal spot against a Cincinnati team that does remind me of my Twins, where Will Benson, Ellie De La Cruz, Jeimer Candelario, Christian Encarnacion Strand, unbelievable bats, but all going to strike out north of 30% at the end of this season. No doubt about it. Holy crap, Zach Wheeler has upside here.
When you just did that, gosh darn it, it reminded me of the Saturday Night Live skit. You know what I'm talking about?
Almost everything I do sounds like a skit to a certain extent. Like, hello, honey, let us have love on the bench. This would be lovely. And she's like, shut the fuck up. Yeah, no, I totally get it. Go ahead.
That's amazing. So yeah, Cincinnati, Philly, hard to speak about because we don't know the weather. I love Wheeler as a pitcher. I prefer Strider if they were both going. I think people are encouraged that they pushed this game back, and that is encouraging, but the weather's still not good. Like, they're going to need to push it back even more, probably. I think there's a lot of risk in all of the weather games. I don't think there's any question that Strider, Burns, and Wheeler are all great plays with no weather. There's weather in all of them, so it's a risk tolerance thing.
Yeah, I don't think Cincinnati is necessarily worth the risk, but Philly certainly is. Even up against Frankie Montas, who I like the stuff. Had a fantastic first outing, too. I mean, you go to his 2023 numbers, 3.43 expected ERA, all of 26 pitches because he got hurt, and that was that. But in 2022, 4 expected ERA, 23.4% K rate. I don't think I want to go and roster any Frankie Montas with the weather concerns, but I certainly want to get to some Phillies 5-mans where it's just like, yo, Mr. Triple Dong, let's do that again, Bryce Harper, Kyle Schwarber, Nick Castellanos, Marsh. I mean, there are some guys in this lineup with some massive upside. I think it's worth it to stack up a couple of these 5-mans and just live with the results. If it doesn't play, it doesn't play. But Philadelphia, round out our program. Who are your favorite bats to get to?
If I were playing like multi-entering, I would definitely do that. Like, I would 100% have some of this game, Philly side, maybe all of it, just because it's going to be low owned. I'm not playing like that, so tough for me to get to any of this game. I do think both Philly sides look better. Montas, I'm also a fan of his stuff. We'll have to wait and see how healthy he is. You know, he didn't strike anyone out last game against Washington. He didn't pitch very deep into the game. I know he didn't allow hardly any contact, any hits, that should be said, but again, it was against Washington, much tougher spot here. I think it's worth taking shots on in tournaments like you do. We're just not going to know. It's the one late game. It wasn't supposed to be at 4. It was supposed to, first pitch was supposed to be at 1. It already got pushed back. We'll see if it gets pushed back again.
All righty. Well, we are going to be a lock here for anybody firing up Corbin Burns. May the force be with you and also with you. I think that was like church and Star Wars combined. But my friend Matt Belman, good to see you again. Fantasy Tips, Matt, over on the Twitters, the X. You're still that over on X, correct? From the NBA season into this, yes. Oh, beautiful stuff. We got Jordan Klein, phenomenal job producing, bringing me in. Seamless transition or something like that. I don't know. I didn't see the transition. It probably sucked because
it was great.
What are you going to do? But Matt, any final words for the people as we get out of here?
No, the transition was awesome. I appreciate you coming on. I know that that's always a tough thing to do, so I appreciate that a lot, man.
All right. Well, I appreciate everybody in chat for making it easy on me here for my first MLB DFS show. I'm going to go back to whatever it was I was doing before. I was writing some golf stuff and some shorts. So check out all of that great stuff over on OddsShopper, over at Stokastic, of course. For Jordan, for Matt, I'm Eric. Go follow me at Eric Lindquist while you're at it, too. Best of luck in MLB DFS, and please, God, Spencer Strider pitch today.